The shot that changed galactic warfare forever occurred on a windswept ridge overlooking the capital city of Vrelka Prime. 3 kilometers away, through swirling atmospheric disturbances that should have made accuracy impossible, a single bullet found its mark. The Vrelkan High Commander collapsed instantly. His personal shield technology, the most advanced in the quadrant, had proven useless against primitive human ballistics. "Impossible," whispered Commander Ta, the Earth-Ani military attaché, reviewing the footage. No targeting system could compensate for those conditions. "It wasn't a system," replied Admiral Kim, sliding a datapad across the table. "It was a human, one they call Ghost." The Galactic Security Council chamber fell silent. Representatives from 17 species exchanged nervous glances. "We've tasked Director Park with studying this human phenomenon," continued Kim. "He's our foremost expert on interspecies military capabilities." Director Park stood, his expression grave. "Our preliminary findings suggest humans possess evolutionary advantages we never considered threats. While we develop technology to compensate for our biological limitations, humans honed their natural abilities. They evolved as persistent hunters with extraordinary visual processing and muscle control. Most disturbing, they can voluntarily regulate autonomous bodily functions we require cybernetic assistance for." "Meaning?" asked the Zentari representative. "Meaning they can slow their hearts, control their breathing, and remain completely motionless for periods that would cause most species neurological damage, all while maintaining perfect focus on their target." The council room buzzed with worried whispers. Director Park continued his presentation, showing detailed scans of human biology. "The human called Ghost took that impossible shot during a Category 3 storm. Our best military systems calculated a 0% chance of success. Yet this single human, with a simple metal tube and chemical propellant technology, achieved what our most advanced targeting systems could not." Admiral Kim nodded grimly. The Vrelkan High Command had 15 personal guards, shield technology, and was inside a reinforced building. One human ended their entire campaign from 3 kilometers away. Director Park displayed footage from the assassination. The council members watched as the Vrelkan commander was speaking to his troops one moment, then collapsed the next. No warning, no indication of danger. "We tracked the shock trajectory," Park explained. "It passed through 2 different weather systems, curved with the planet's magnetic field, and still maintained enough velocity to penetrate military-grade shielding." "How did they calculate such a shot?" asked the Earth-Ani representative. "They didn't use calculations," Park replied. "At least not technological ones. Human snipers describe a state they call becoming one with the environment. They feel the wind, sense temperature variations, and make instinctive adjustments no computer can match." The council sat in uncomfortable silence, processing this information. "We've always assumed technological advancement was the path to military superiority," said Admiral Kim. "Humans took a different approach. They perfected their biological capabilities." Director Park showed another clip, this time of human military training. A line of soldiers lay motionless in mud for hours, rifles trained on distant targets. This training exercise lasted 72 hours. No food, minimal water, complete silence and immobility required. Those who moved or made noise were immediately removed from the program. "That's torture by most species standards," said Commander Ta. "For humans, it's standard training," Park replied. "Their snipers learn to control not just their breathing and heartbeat, but even their digestive systems. They can suppress hunger, thirst, even the urge to eliminate waste." Admiral Kim stood and paced the room. "The Vrelkan assassination proves we've underestimated humans. Their lack of technological advancement isn't a weakness. It's a different evolutionary path." "What can we do against such abilities?" asked the Zentari representative, mandibles clicking nervously. "That's why we're here," Kim replied. "We need to understand this threat before it spreads." Director Park activated a holographic display showing human skeletal and muscular systems. Their physical form appears unremarkable until you observe them in action. Their visual acuity, while not as sharp as some species, covers an extraordinary range. They process distance, movement, and environmental factors simultaneously. "And this ghost?" asked Commander Ta. "What do we know about them?" Admiral Kim shook his head. "Very little. Human military records are surprisingly primitive, sometimes kept on physical paper. We know Ghost is part of their special forces, with over 200 confirmed eliminations across 7 planetary systems." 200. The Zentari representative's voice rose in alarm. "With just a primitive projectile weapon?" "Yes," Kim confirmed. "And in each case, the target believed they were safe, either due to distance, protection, or environmental conditions that should have made accuracy impossible." Director Park displayed a simple human rifle. "This is the weapon used in the Vulcan assassination. Notice the lack of targeting computers, stabilization fields, or power sources. Just mechanical parts, metal, and wood." The council members leaned forward to study the primitive weapon. "Its simplicity is what makes it deadly," Park explained. "No electronic signature, no power emissions, nothing our sensors can detect. Just a human, perfectly still, watching and waiting. Sometimes for days." Admiral Kim addressed the council directly. "We must develop new protocols. Our leaders need different protection. Our facilities need redesigning. A single human with this primitive technology can undermine our most sophisticated defenses." As the meeting concluded, Commander Tai approached Director Park privately. "Is there any good news in your research?" Park considered this. "Only that humans are few in number and still confined mostly to their home system. If they ever decide to expand aggressively." He left the thought unfinished. That night, security forces across 17 species received new standing orders. Watch the high ground, scan for unusual stillness, and remember, the most dangerous predator in the galaxy might be a single human with a simple metal tube, waiting patiently in the shadows. The grand chamber of the Galactic Security Council buzzed with nervous energy as Director Park resumed his presentation. The large screen behind him displayed detailed human anatomical scans next to those of other known sapient species. "Humans represent a unique evolutionary path," Director Park explained, pointing to the comparative images. "While most spacefaring species evolved either as prey animals with escape mechanisms or as ambush predators, humans developed as something different, persistent trackers who pursued prey across vast distances." The gathered representatives leaned forward in their seats. The Zentari delegates' antennae twitched with anxiety. Director Park continued. "On their home planet, early humans would chase animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. This required not just physical stamina, but also exceptional pattern recognition and spatial awareness." He switched the display to footage from a human military training ground. The time-lapse video showed snipers lying in position, so still they might have been statues. "Note how they regulate their respiratory rate to match optimal firing windows," Park said. "One breath cycle might last several minutes. Their neural architecture allows real-time calculations factoring gravity, wind resistance, planetary rotation, and atmospheric density, all without computational aids." Admiral Kim stood beside Park, his face grim. "We've always relied on technology to overcome our biological limitations. Humans took a different path. They pushed their natural abilities to extremes we never thought possible." Dr. Lee, the xenobiologist, stepped forward and highlighted several brain scans on the screen. Her slender fingers traced unusual patterns in the human neural pathways. "Their visual cortex shows unusual development," she explained. "Most species cannot naturally process the fine details required for extreme distance targeting. Humans not only possess this ability, but can enhance it through training." The footage changed to show a human sniper tracking a moving target through heavy rain. The target was barely visible to the alien observers, yet the human fired with perfect accuracy. "Their eyes are not particularly special," Dr. Lee continued. It's how their brains process visual information that makes them dangerous. They can spot the slightest movement at incredible distances. They notice patterns and disruptions that our most advanced systems sometimes miss. Ambassador Choi raised a tentative hand. What about psychological factors? Perhaps most concerning. Director Park continued, is their capacity for isolation. Social species typically experience severe cognitive decline during extended solitary operations. Humans not only tolerate it, some seem to prefer it. They can maintain perfect concentration while alone for weeks. The screen showed a lone human in a carefully camouflaged position on a barren mountainside. The timestamp indicated the footage covered 5 days, during which the human barely moved except to make minimal adjustments to their equipment. This sniper remained in position for 11 days, Park explained. No communication, minimal food and water, extreme temperature variations. Our best operatives would suffer psychological breakdown after just 48 hours in similar conditions. The council room grew quiet as the implications sank in. There's more, Dr. Lee added. Humans possess extraordinary fine motor control. Their hands evolve for both power and precision. Watch how this sniper adjusts their weapon. The screen showed close-up footage of human hands making minute adjustments to a rifle scope. Those tiny movements compensate for wind changes too subtle for our instruments to detect, she explained. They feel the air currents on their skin and adjust instinctively. Admiral Kim paced at the front of the room. We've captured some of their training manuals. They train to control their emotions during the kill. They call it becoming cold. Their heart rate barely changes when they take a life. Director Park nodded. They enter a mental state they call the zone, a perfect balance of focus and calm. Their brain scans during this state show activity patterns unlike anything we've observed in other species. Can we not develop technology to match these abilities? Asked the Earthani representative. We've tried, Admiral Kim replied. Our best targeting systems require power sources, emit detectable signals, and still can't match a skilled human's intuitive adjustments for complex environmental factors. A delegate from the back of the room spoke up. How do we counter such abilities? Park's expression grew somber. That, he replied solemnly, is what keeps me awake at night. The council chamber fell into uneasy silence. Park continued, displaying more footage. Observe how they use natural terrain. This human positioned himself 3 kilometers from a target, covered in local vegetation. Our sensors scanned that area 5 times and detected nothing. The video showed a hillside that appeared empty. Park froze the frame and slowly increased magnification, eventually revealing a perfectly camouflaged human form, almost indistinguishable from the surrounding rocks and plants. They become part of the environment, Dr. Lee explained. They regulate their body temperature to match surroundings. They move only when natural motion occurs, when wind blows the vegetation, for example. Admiral Kim added, and perhaps most concerning, they seem to enjoy the challenge. Their military records indicate their best snipers take pride in making the impossible shot. It's not just duty to them, it's art. Art. The Zentari delegate's voice rose sharply. They consider killing an art form. They have writings about the perfect shot, Kim confirmed. They speak of elegance, beauty, and harmony when describing a clean kill. Director Park switched to new footage, a recording from a distance shooting competition. Humans took turns firing at targets so far away they were invisible to the naked eye. Note the absence of technological aids, Park said. Just the human, their weapon, and their extraordinary natural abilities. As the council watched in stunned silence, Dr. Lee quietly summarized, we face a predator species that evolved to track prey across vast distances, can calculate complex physics problems instinctively, remains perfectly still for days, operates alone without psychological damage, and takes pride in making the impossible shot. Ambassador Choi stood slowly. What do you recommend? Director Park. Park looked around the room. meeting the eyes and eye stalks of each representative. First, we must understand that no place is truly safe. Second, we must develop new security protocols that don't rely on distance or environmental conditions for protection. And third, he paused, choosing his words carefully. Third, we must hope humans remain more interested in cooperation than conquest. The Human Sniper Academy stood isolated on Earth's northern plains. Winds swept across the open landscape, bending the tall grass in waves. Snow-capped mountains loomed in the distance. Director Park shivered despite his thermal suit. He had arranged his covert observation through careful diplomatic channels, using his position as a cultural exchange officer as cover. His actual mission was far more sensitive. The Galactic Security Council needed to understand how humans created their legendary snipers. From his hidden observation post, Director Park watched 20 human recruits lying motionless in the mud. Rain poured down on them. They had been in the same position for over 30 hours. Day 73. He recorded privately into his wrist device. Candidates still undergoing endurance trials. They remain in position for 40 hours without movement, rifles trained on distant targets. Instructors occasionally fire live rounds near their positions. Those who flinch are immediately eliminated from the program. As if on cue, a shot rang out, kicking up dirt just centimeters from a recruit's face. The young man didn't move a muscle. Park was impressed despite himself. Master Surgeon Han walked between the prone figures, her steps deliberate and silent. Her reputation preceded her, the sniper responsible for ending the Proxima Centauri conflict with a single shot through 2 kilometers of methane storms. 3 governments had placed bounties on her head. None had ever gotten close. She stopped beside one recruit and knelt down. Her voice carried clearly to Park's observation post. "Your breathing is uneven," recruit sung. "Control it or leave." The recruit made no response, but Park's sensors detected a slight change in the human's breathing pattern. It slowed, becoming deeper and more regular. Later that day, Park observed a classroom session. The recruits sat at simple wooden tables, each with rifle parts spread before them. "Your weapon is not technology," Surgeon Han told the recruits. "It is an extension of your body, your will. You must know its every characteristic as intimately as your own heartbeat." One by one, the recruits assembled their rifles while blindfolded. Surgeon Han moved among them, occasionally making small adjustments to their technique. "Feel the metal," she instructed. "Listen to how the parts fit together. Your rifle will speak to you if you learn its language." Park found this concept strange. In his culture, weapons were tools, nothing more. Certainly not something that spoke to its user. The next day, Park watched as students meticulously handcrafted components of their rifles, testing each part under various gravitational and atmospheric conditions. They worked in a large chamber where gravity and air pressure could be adjusted to simulate different worlds. "You will not always fire on Earth," Surgeon Han explained. "You must understand how your bullet flies on a high-gravity world, in thin atmosphere, through storms. Your calculations must become instinct." One recruit raised his hand. "Sergeant, wouldn't a targeting computer be more accurate?" The room fell silent. Surgeon Han approached the recruit slowly. "Computers can be jammed, hacked, or damaged," she said quietly. "They rely on power sources that can fail. They make noise and emit signals that can be detected. But this," she tapped her temple, "cannot be hacked. And this," she placed her hand over her heart, "will not betray you with electronic emissions. A human with a rifle is invisible in ways technology can never be." Most disturbing, Park noted later in his private log, is their bond with these primitive weapons. The students name them, speak to them. One explained that his rifle is the only companion a sniper needs. Such psychological conditioning creates warriors unlike any other species produces. On the 80th day, Park witnessed something remarkable. The Academy had created a testing ground with artificial hurricane-force winds. Debris flew through the air. The sound was deafening. Sergeant Han stood calmly at the firing line, her rifle held steady despite the chaos around her. 5 kilometers away, a small target drone moved erratically in the wind. "Observe," said the academy commander to the gathered recruits. "This is what you are working toward." Sergeant Han took a deep breath, then another. She seemed to grow still, even as the storm raged around her. For 2 full minutes, she made no move to fire. Then, in a moment between gusts, she squeezed the trigger. The drone exploded 5 kilometers away. The recruits remained silent, but Park could see the awe in their eyes. The commander nodded solemnly. "That is why she is your instructor. That is what you must become." When Sergeant Han demonstrated her skills by eliminating a target drone through hurricane-force winds, Park realized the reports hadn't been exaggerated. Humans weren't just good marksmen. They were something evolution had never before produced. Later that week, Park observed the nighttime training. Recruits navigated through complete darkness, setting up positions without making a sound. Their instructors moved among them like ghosts, occasionally eliminating a recruit who made too much noise. "Your enemy has technology it can see in the dark," Sergeant Han told them. "But they cannot hear your thoughts. They cannot detect your patience. These are your advantages." On day 90, Park watched the graduation ceremony for those who had survived the training. Only 7 of the original 20 remained. They stood at attention, faces weathered by the elements, eyes sharp and focused. Sergeant Han walked before them. "You are no longer ordinary soldiers. You are the shadow that falls without warning. You are the whisper that ends wars. You are human snipers, and that means something in this galaxy." Each graduate received a small pin, a simple star with a dark center. No speeches, no celebration, just quiet acknowledgement of what they had become. As Park prepared his final report for the Galactic Security Council, he added a personal note. "I came to study human military training. I leave with a warning. These are not just soldiers with good aim. They are something new, patient predators who have turned limitation into advantage, silence into strength, and isolation into power. The galaxy has never faced anything like them." The diplomatic crisis at Outpost 12 began with a simple transmission. The message was brief. "We control the station. Meet our demands or civilians die." Within hours, the Galactic Crisis Response Team assembled in the command center of the nearby monitoring station. Admiral Jin reviewed the situation grimly. 17 extremists, 43 civilian hostages. They've rigged the civilian quarters to decompress if we attempt a direct assault. The outpost floated in space, a wheel-shaped structure spinning slowly to create artificial gravity. Its location near the border made it strategically important, and very difficult to reach quickly with conventional forces. "What about negotiation?" asked the Earth-Any ambassador, his scaled skin reflecting the blue light of the holographic display. "They're not interested," replied Admiral Jin. "They want control of the border crossing and immunity for their past actions. Neither is possible." General Kang entered the room, his uniform crisp despite the late hour. "We have an option," he announced. "We're sending in specialist men." "One human?" asked the Earth-Any ambassador incredulously. "One is all we need." The briefing was short. Specialist Min, a man of few words, studied the station schematics while the others discussed options and risks. His focus never wavered from the rotating hologram of the outpost. "The extremist leader stays here," Min said, pointing to a section of the station, near the command center but never directly in it. "Smart. He has 6 guards watching all approaches." "Correct," confirmed Admiral Jin. "How would you proceed?" Min traced a path along the outer hull. "I'll enter here, through the maintenance airlock. It's rarely monitored." "And then," prompted General Kang. "I'll find a position and wait." "For what?" the Earth-Any ambassador asked. "For the perfect shot." 6 hours later, Min drifted through space in a maintenance suit, propelling himself with minimal bursts from his thrusters. The outpost grew larger in his visor. He timed his approach to remain in the station's shadow, invisible to both sensors and visual observation. The maintenance airlock was as expected, unguarded and operational. Min slipped inside, the soft hiss of repressurization barely audible even to him. He moved through the narrow maintenance shafts like a ghost, his equipment secured tightly to prevent any sound. The station's rotation created a slight pull, but Min had trained in variable gravity environments for years. He compensated without conscious thought. After 2 hours of careful movement, he reached his chosen position, a cramped junction between waste processing and life support. The location was perfect. Access to a small viewport that overlooked the corridor the extremist leader used, yet hidden from all security cameras. Min settled into position. He would not move again until the mission was complete. "Subject has secured position," reported the monitoring officer, watching Min's vital signs through his suit's sensors. Estimated wait time unknown. In the command center, Admiral Jin and General Kang watched the slow pulse of Min's life signs on the screen. "Will he have a shot from there?" asked the Earthani ambassador. "If anyone can make it work, Min can," General Kang replied. Hours passed, then days. The extremists grew bolder, threatening to kill hostages if their demands weren't met soon. "Subject has not moved for 36 hours, noted the monitoring officer. "Vital signs barely registering." "Is he still alive?" the ambassador asked with concern. "He's in the zone," General Kang explained. "Humans can enter a state of almost suspended animation while maintaining full awareness. Min is conserving oxygen and energy while he waits." Inside the junction, Min's mind remained razor-sharp despite his near-motionless state. He had positioned his rifle, a specialized model designed for space station operations, with its barrel just inside a small access panel. The panel gave him a narrow view of the corridor. Min calculated every variable. The station's rotation created a subtle Coriolis effect. The difference in atmospheric pressure between his position and the target location would affect trajectory. The transparent aluminum viewports would refract his shot path. He even factored in the slight gravity fluctuations caused by the station's aging rotation system. On the third day, the extremist leader grew impatient. Reports indicated he would personally execute a hostage to prove his resolve. Min knew this was the moment he had been waiting for. The leader would walk down the corridor to the civilian quarters. He would pass the viewport at precisely 14:57 hours, based on his previous movement patterns. Min would have less than 2 seconds to take the shot. In the command center, tension mounted as the hour approached. "Min's heart rate is increasing slightly," reported the monitoring officer. "He's preparing to engage." At exactly 14:57 hours, the extremist leader appeared in the corridor, flanked by 2 guards. He walked with the confidence of someone who believed himself untouchable. Min exhaled slowly, his finger taking up the slack on the trigger. The leader moved into position, pausing briefly to check a display on his wrist. The shot, when it came, was almost silent, a specialized round designed to minimize noise. It traveled through the access panel, across 10 meters of maintenance tunnel, through a small viewport, across the main corridor, through another viewport into an adjacent corridor, where it struck the extremist leader in the center of his forehead. The leader collapsed instantly. His guards, confused by the lack of sound or visible threat, froze momentarily. Enough time for Min to place 2 more perfect shots. In the command center, screens lit up as the monitoring systems registered the deaths. "He did it," whispered the Earthani ambassador in awe. "Tactical teams moving in," announced Admiral Jin. "The extremists are disorganized without their leader." Within an hour, the station was secure. All hostages rescued. Total casualty count: 3 extremists, 0 civilians. Later analysis revealed the shot should have been mathematically impossible given the environmental conditions. The bullet had passed through 3 different atmospheric density layers, been affected by the station's rotation, and still struck with perfect accuracy. When Min returned to the command center, he was quiet, showing no signs of triumph or emotion. How did you make that shot? The Earth-Any ambassador asked him directly. Our best computers say it was impossible. Min considered the question for a moment before answering. The bullet doesn't know it's impossible, he said simply. It just follows the path you send it on. As Min left for debriefing, the ambassador turned to General Kang. Is he being modest, or is that really how they think? Kang watched Min's departing figure. That's what makes them so dangerous, he replied. Where we see impossible obstacles, they see only problems to solve. And somehow, they solve them. The emergency session of the Galactic Security Council began in chaos. News of the Outpost 12 incident had spread quickly. Representatives from 17 species spoke over each other, demanding answers and action. Order, called the council president, striking his ceremonial staff against the floor. The room gradually quieted. The human threat must be addressed, insisted the Zentari military commander, his insect-like mandibles clicking with agitation. What happened at Outpost 12 proves they are more dangerous than we believed. One human, one primitive weapon, 3 perfect kills through impossible conditions. The council members murmured in agreement. On the large screen at the front of the chamber, footage from Outpost 12 played silently. The fallen extremist leader, the confused guards, the rescued hostages. Director Park stood to present his findings. He looked tired. His research into human snipers had kept him awake for many cycles. Our analysis confirms that human sniping capabilities represent a fundamental shift in tactical doctrine, he began. A single human with a primitive chemical propellant weapon can neutralize targets our most advanced systems cannot protect against. He displayed data from the incident. Charts showed the impossible trajectory of Specialist Min's shot. Simulations demonstrated how the bullet passed through 3 different atmospheric layers, compensated for the station's rotation, and still maintained perfect accuracy. We must understand this is not an isolated incident, Park continued. Human military records show similar, impossible shots in at least 12 major conflicts. Their abilities are consistently underestimated because we assume technology is necessary for such precision. Admiral Kim joined Park at the podium. This creates a strategic problem we've never faced. Our defense systems are designed to counter technological threats, energy weapons, guided projectiles, drones. They cannot counter a single human with a simple rifle hiding kilometers away or in a maintenance shaft. The council chamber grew quiet as the implications sank in. What do you recommend? Asked the council president. First, we must change our security protocols, Admiral Kim replied. Traditional methods are ineffective against human snipers. Within days, the council's recommendations spread across the galaxy. Military installations implemented new protocols. Randomized movement patterns became standard for high-value targets. Some species developed atmospheric scramblers to create unpredictable distortion fields. Buildings were redesigned to eliminate long sight lines and clear firing positions. On the Earth-Any homeworld, Commander Tai supervised the installation of new security measures around the capital city. Workers placed special panels on windows to prevent sniper scopes from seeing inside. Security teams studied terrain features that might serve as sniper nests. Is all this truly necessary? Asked a junior officer. Humans are few in number and mostly stay in their home system. You didn't see the footage from Outpost 12, Tai replied grimly. Or the Vrelkan assassination. Humans can end wars with a single shot. We must be prepared. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. The Zentari built underground bunkers for their leaders. The Krell developed special armor that constantly changed its heat signature to confuse human targeting. The Morrigan species, always technologically advanced, created holographic decoys that perfectly mimic their leaders' movements. 3 months after the incident, Ambassador Choi addressed the Security Council again. Most telling, she noted, is the psychological impact. The mere suggestion of human snipers in a region creates paralyzing fear among opposing forces. The phrase "shadows hide humans" has become a common warning in military channels. She displayed reports from border outposts. Guards reported increased stress and paranoia. Sleep disorders had become common among security personnel. The fear of an invisible human watching from kilometers away was proving more effective than actual attacks. "We need a long-term solution," she concluded. After much debate, the Council eventually authorized the Sniper Countermeasure Initiative, the largest multi-species defense project in galactic history. Its goal was to develop technology that could detect and neutralize human snipers before they could fire. The project consumed vast resources. Scientists studied human biology, seeking weaknesses. Engineers developed new sensor systems designed to detect the minute changes in air pressure that might indicate a human's presence. Military strategists analyzed every recorded sniper incident, looking for patterns. Yet even as these efforts proceeded, reports continued to circulate of impossible shots in distant conflicts. A human sniper ended a 3-year siege on Proxima IV with a single bullet that traveled through a dust storm. Another eliminated a pirate leader on a ship traveling at sublight speed, somehow compensating for both the ship's velocity and their own position on a moving planet. As the council session concluded, Commander Tai approached Director Park privately. The two had developed a cautious friendship over the months of research. "After all your research," Tai asked quietly, "what defense would you recommend against these human specialists?" Park looked tired. He had studied humans more closely than anyone else in the galaxy. He had watched their training, analyzed their biology, documented their feats. He considered the question carefully before answering. "Prayer, Commander," he said finally. "Very sincere prayer." Tai's expression showed confusion. "That's not a tactical response." "Perhaps not," Park agreed. "But I've come to believe humans represent something we've never encountered before. A species that turns limitations into advantages. We evolved to overcome our biological constraints through technology. They evolved to perfect their natural abilities." He looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, a human might be watching through a simple scope, breathing slowly, finger on a trigger, calculating a shot we would consider impossible. "That's a disturbing thought," Tai replied. "Yes," Park agreed. "But there is hope." "What hope?" "Humans are not naturally aggressive. They form deep bonds, show remarkable empathy, and prefer cooperation when possible. Their snipers are defensive specialists, not conquerors." Park gathered his notes. "So we should be thankful that humans prefer to shoot at those who threaten them, not at everyone they meet. Because if they ever decided otherwise..." He left the thought unfinished. Later that night, Commander Tai added new security protocols for his homeworld. And though he would never admit it, he also whispered a small prayer to whatever powers might exist in the universe, that humans would remain allies rather than enemies. Because against a patient predator with a simple rifle and impossible skill, no technology in the galaxy seemed adequate protection.